Hello, everyone. I'm Mark.
I'm Rob.
And welcome to Mark and Rob's Sports Showdown, the hottest and best sports talk show in the universe, including Mars, because now we are allowing Martians and green people to watch our show. I expanded that. We don't care about skin color. Anyways, we got a live show on Mondays, Eastern Time from 7 to 8. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that notification bell when you do, and please subscribe. We need more subscribers, and feel free to make intelligent, non-insulting comments and all that good stuff. And please share our videos with your family and friends, enemies, and coworkers. Anyway, so last night, Rob, the Fever got their fourth win, 91-84 against the Atlanta Dream. And Rob, give me your takeaway in the game.
I thought it was very good. The Fever seemed to be a little more energized and played a lot harder, especially on defense. Near the end of the game, they had two great defensive caused Atlanta to have two turnovers as far as like the shot clock violations. And that's a result of good defense. And I think during the game, they had some good defensive play also. I mean, Atlanta did come back on them, but I think overall, I like the way that they were playing. Clark and Mitchell weren't actually always bring the ball up. They had in the other person's hands, I think it was Wheeler's hand, and she made some nice moves to the basket. But and in Boston, she just finally dominated the game. She was like the Boston of last year, and they were feeding her the ball, and she was actually making the layups and getting fouled. And then Mitchell, she was hitting the 3-pointers. She was hot. She was on. So I mean, as a team, they really played well together. I mean, Clark didn't play that well, but she made the passes that she made to the post, and then she's learning how to get out of the double team, which is kind of good also.
Well, they double team her less too.
You know, and she rebounded too. She got some rebounds also. So I think overall the team did a nice job. They played very hard. Even the coach was into it. You know, she was in the ref's face on one call where near the end of the game, player got fouled, and she was like, "What are you doing? Why is that intentional?" She wrapped her up. I mean, it wasn't a flagrant, but the girl just grabbed her. The woman just grabbed her, and then she kind of held her up. She didn't like just throw her to the ground. She kind of held her up. So I think that was okay. So even the coach was into it. I could see they really made some adjustments as far as defense and offense. I thought there was a little more flow in the first half of the offense.
Well, Rob, I saw this. There was a comment made on our YouTube channel about an excerpt from what the coach said about the offense that she wants to run. And basically she said, we want to run the same offense as we did last year, go through Aliyah Boston. And that's what she did this game. But that's at the expense of Clark. So there's a problem here. It worked this game because the defenders weren't as good as they had played against in previous games. Tina Charles has only got 16 minutes and she's 35 years old. You know, the defenders they had weren't as good, and that's why Boston had a better game. I'm not saying there aren't other reasons she had a better game. She had a better game because she played better. I get that. But she struggles against the better defenders in the league. And before this game, she was shooting 44%. And last year she shot 58%. They actually updated it. She was shooting less than that. She was shooting 42% before this game because I saw it last night. And now 58% as she shot last year. So all their numbers were down from the year before, with the exception of she had a few more assists. Her rebounds were down. Her points were down. Everything was down. Even her blocks, her steals, everything was down from last year. She wasn't playing well. I don't know why she wasn't playing well. She doesn't mesh well with Clark, and it's not her fault. She's slow. Clark wants to play fast. We've been over that.
What do you mean by mesh well? I mean, by mesh well, what do you mean by mesh well?
Because Clark wants to play fast and go on the run. And the coach, and what's best for Boston is for Clark to bring the ball up slow and then just give it to her in the post. Some people think go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Some people think they can't play together at all. I'm not convinced of that. I'm just telling you that they don't have the same style. So go ahead.
Well, like you said, depending on the team they're playing, she was happily giving the ball to Boston. Boston was scoring inside. And so to me, that was a good strategy, you know, but because eventually if the ball is going inside the Boston, that will open up things for the outside for Clark to shoot. and she had the shots, but she missed them. That's why she was practicing after the game, because she had the open shots. This didn't go in. But I mean, as far as meshing, I mean, you can't always zoom the ball down the court. You do have to run an offense.
They didn't do it at all. Yeah, they didn't do it at all yesterday.
They pushed it up the court.
Get one pass on a fast break that I saw.
Well, they played at the pace that I thought was. I mean, they ran their offense because they knew that Boston was going to abuse this player inside, and that's what happened. And then Mitchell hit her shots from the outside.
My point was that the coaches decided that's what she wanted to do at every game, and it worked this game because Boston shot better and the defense was weaker, but it hasn't worked for 13 games. So, you just have to keep that in consideration. I mean, let's see how the season progresses. I don't know for sure if I'm right or wrong about this. I don't think it's going to work nearly as well against other teams that have better defenders. And if Boston doesn't have a good shooting game, like I said, she was shooting 42% before this game. She shot well last night, and she played great. There's no question about that. But Clark looked really uncomfortable in that style of play. And in fact, she shot poorly, but all her shots were kind of forced. It was never in the flow of the game. Nobody was setting screens for her.
Oh yeah, they were setting screens for her. They were setting a lot of screens for her. I'm watching the game. They said Boston must have set about 5 or 6 high screens, and then they had a screen off near the free throw line, and then the player switched. The player switched, and Clark, being a smart player, which I really liked, I meant to mention with Clark, when she handled the pick and roll and the screens, she kept her dribble. Some people pick the ball up, and that screws up the pick and roll and the screen. She kept her dribble, and then she dribbled in, and then she made a nice couple of passes inside, which I thought was brilliant. I thought it was really brilliant on her part.
I don't know what the solution is, Rob, but one YouTuber said they have to trade one or the other. And I think that's never going to happen, at least not this year. That's pretty extreme. They don't have enough talent, and unless they can get somebody as good as Boston who's fast, what's the point? You're just going to lose. You're going to lose out on a good player she hasn't been a great player this year, but she has the potential to be a great player. And she was a good player last year. She wouldn't have been Rookie of the Year and an All-Star. She wouldn't have shot 58%, which actually led the league.
So the problem is that you're saying, I'm trying to get it right, is that you said the coach has now just instilled, like, okay, get the ball to Boston.
Get the ball to Boston. Get the ball to Boston. Put it in the post. Put it in the post. Don't run it all. Don't run it all. That's the problem. Yeah, it has to be, if they're going to coexist, there's got to be a compromise, or Clark's game is going to be completely thrown off. You're not going to take advantage of the most exciting and best fast-paced player in the history of college basketball.
Well, I don't know if she's fast-paced. She's not as fast as Mitchell or as
I'm not saying no. She's not the fastest player, but she plays the fastest game in terms of on the break and on the run. She's like LA Showtime. She plays a great. Go watch the Iowa games. Doesn't matter whether she was the fastest person.
This is not Iowa game, but this is Indiana game. So
I understand that.
It's different players.
It's different players, of course, but she can do. Well, first of all, the problem is that Fegbenley is injured, and she's the fastest player of the 3 bigs, and so that's a real issue right now. And I think once she's back, Clark will play better. But and Smith is faster than Boston too, and Mitchell is fast, but she doesn't seem to ever want to cut on the break too much. I don't know. She's the fastest person on the court most of the time.
Well, that's annoys me with Clark. I mean, I was watching the game, and though she makes that pass, she stays out. It's driving me nuts, Mark. She's staying outside after the pass and just standing there. She's got to move. Yeah, she's got to move. She can't just stand there. She's standing there waiting for a return pass, and that's why people can guard her so easily. It's like, okay, she's just going to stand out here. She needs to cut to the basket. What is she waiting for? Give and go. Basic basketball. Pass the ball, corner, go through, move. You have to move. If you want the ball in offense, you have to move. You can't just stand there.
It's going to take a while.
Because then what happens, they pass it back out to her, and the person's right on her. So you're right. She has a contested shot instead of a wide open one. If she moved from that spot, maybe she wouldn't have a contested shot. She's got to move a little bit more on her part too.
Well, she's not used to moving without the ball. She's used to having the ball all the time. And so it's going to take a while for her to adjust to that if that's the offense they're going to play. But you're never going to take advantage of Clark's skills, the offense that Coach Sides wants to play. That's all I'm saying. So something's going to suffer.
Well,
the last 2 games in a row, she looked uncomfortable to me.
Well, like I said yesterday, the offense. I was talking about pick and rolls and motion. They were actually setting screens for Clark, and they were actually setting screens for each other. I hadn't seen in previous games, and they actually, why they caused those shot clock violations near the end, they actually must have watched our show. Obviously, they double teamed the ball. I was like,
I know because they
whoa.
haven't double teamed all year. And
Yeah, I was, Mark. I was going. You must have watched our show. I was just talking about that. They
I
never
remember bringing that
teamed.
topic up and saying why, if it's effective to double team Clark, why aren't they double teaming the best player in the other team? They never do
And
that.
that's what they started to do. But Howard was killing him on the 3-pointer, and the ball went to the corner, and they double teamed her, forced her, and then the shot clock ran out. So I was surprised. I was happy
Well,
actually.
that tells me the limitations of Coach Sides as a coach. The fact that it took him 14 games to do a double team.
Yeah, yeah.
A
I mean,
trap.
yeah, that's what we're talking about. Yeah,
I mean, come on. I don't know. I don't have a solution, Rob. Maybe someone in the audience does. I don't think trading either one of them is the solution. It's not going to happen this year, anyways. And maybe it'll be different when Feng Bentley gets there and there's a nice compromise. They can run when she's there. But Mitchell's so fast that she just needs to try to do it on the break sometimes too. So we'll see what happens. I'm just telling you, Clark looks uncomfortable in this offense. And I don't know if she's ever going to adjust to it or whether you're ever going to take advantage of Clark's abilities by running this offense. And like I said, it worked this game. They didn't have any great defenders or even, very good defenders.
well, Howard. Well, they didn't double team Clark that much. They had Howard on her, who's actually she's a really good defensive player. I don't know why. I'm wondering why the way she's playing. I'm like, how could she not be on the Olympic team? She's very good. I was like, oh my goodness.
What people said, other than the woman's name I can't pronounce, and her first name's Akia, who's the second leading scorer in the league. Other than her, Ryan Howard is a name I see most often pop up is another person who should be on the Olympic team. And maybe she should. Certainly Diana Taurasi shouldn't be. So no. I'm all for anyone besides Diana Taurasi.
I'll raise my hand.
Rob, I would put you on before Diana Taurasi.
I can sit there on the bench. I can shoot in mysteries. I can do that. But I mean, yeah. I mean, yes. I'm just surprised she's not on the. I mean, she's a really good ball player.
I think she was considered. In fact, they showed like the 12 players they're going to play against the Olympic team if Clark doesn't end up on it because Chelsea Gray is still injured. She's obviously on the list, and they're 12 players. Both of those players are on the list. They're supposed to going to play a game right before the Olympics. The
WNBA All-Stars, I guess they said. Yeah.
It's part of All-Star Weekend, if I understand it correctly. I'm new to WNBA. I boycotted the WNBA after they didn't put Candace Parker on the Olympic team in 2016. I was only watching a little bit before that, but I said, okay, you guys forget it. You don't care about your fans. And that was outrageous. One of the top 5 or 6 players.
Oh, yeah, that was
because she didn't go to UConn and UConn was a coach. He's not even supposed to choose the team. It's a committee that's not even him.
Seems like he did, though. Yeah.
Oh, he did. It's 100%. They hate each other.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's why I said, okay, I don't know. I'm just telling you that's what I see in, like, again, I'm new to the WNBA but I've watched a lot of basketball and I can see things. And that's my take on that. I think that the obvious starting 5 is going to be the 5 that I've mentioned several times. And that includes Temi when she comes back, and Smith and Boston and Mitchell and Clark. And, then you got people coming off the bench who are actually pretty quick. She's playing Hall, who's a pretty good defender and a pretty good player, and Wheeler, and they're both quick. So the potential's there for the team to do some running and do Clark's style, except for Boston. I don't think Wallace and Samuelson aren't fast enough either. But I think they're only getting playing time, especially Samuelson, because she's a forward, because Temi's not here right now.
Samuelson had a good game. Samuelson had a real nice game. She had a couple.
I understand, but Temi's better, and she's faster. And I understand. I'm not saying she's a bad player. I'm not saying that about Wallace. I just think they'll both get less playing time when Temi comes back, and Temi's faster and hustles more than them. So that's just my feeling. Let's just go over how.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I'll go over some numbers here, because Boston was 12 for 21, and she also had 13 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal. and she scored 27 points. And Mitchell was 7 for 14, 3 for 7 for threes, and had 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, and had 24 points. And they played well. And Mitchell actually passed a little bit. Second game in a row, she passed a little bit. So that's a good sign. And the coach must have spoke to her, because she had that one game where she had 0 everything but shots.
Right.
Smith didn't have a great game, but she didn't play poorly. She had 10 points and 5 rebounds, 3 for 8. But and Clark, as you probably know, he's 3 for 11, 1 for 6 from threes. Had 4 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 blocks, which is good, but 7 turnovers, which you've got to stop.
Turnovers are killing her. Yeah, the turnovers are killing her. And this time, I mean, I watched the game, and sometimes it was maybe a player didn't catch the ball, but sometimes it was her. It was on her. I mean, so
and I thought
the players.
And I thought Wheeler played well, and she actually had
she did.
plus minus. She was a plus 12. She was 2 for 4. And also, she had 3 assists. She's obviously the second best passer on the team, and 3 rebounds too. Anyway, so I don't know what to say, Rob. But we'll see what happens next game if they run this exact same offense. If Boston doesn't shoot as well, and the defender's better, it might not seem like such a great idea. That's all I'm saying. Let us know what you think in the comments. Like I said, I don't have a solution, and I think you need to wait till Temi comes back to figure out how to run this offense, because I think she was playing as well as anybody before she got injured, and she was really.
So you think the focus should be more for the offense to rotate around Clark, or how would you? Like I said, you want the offense to be more around Clark instead of Boston, who was an All-Star last year, or?
I think she's a better player than Boston. I don't think Boston.
Not right now. Right now she's not.
No, last game she wasn't. 2 games ago she looked like the best player in the league. So I don't know. Look at she's obviously not comfortable with playing with this team with this coach.
Well, she's got to get used. Like I said, I'm not even defending the coach, because we're right. She's just all of a sudden. When I watch this game, I'm like, wow, you must have really had a good practice or talked or watched our video, because you did everything that I said that she should be doing. The offense was motion, setting screens, setting picks, and then their defense picked up. So, but with Clark, and she has to adjust too. I mean, she can't just sit there and be. It's not like they're playing. She's got to adjust too as a player. If this is not going on, she has to do other things, and that's what she did yesterday. Actually, she wasn't scoring. So she would. There's one play where she drove in and they called it travel, which I couldn't believe. That was a nice move by her. That was obvious. I was like, "Whoa, that's not a travel. What are you talking about?"
That counts as a turn. I thought that was a really. If that's a travel, Hall got called for travel, and if that's a travel, then there's 100 travels a day in the NBA. She got the ball and she took 2 steps and put the ball down. And she called it travel, and it was almost. Yeah. I mean,
I couldn't believe. Yeah, I was like,
1950s. That was a travel, but it wasn't. It wasn't a travel.
Yeah, compared to nowadays, that was definitely not a travel. What's with like that? It wasn't even that so-called Euro step. That was just a regular move to the basket.
No, she wasn't even doing that. She just started dribbling after she got the ball, but she took 2 steps, and I guess her second step came down before the travel. I guess, like I say, 1950s, that was a travel, but players do that every time they get the ball. In the NBA, like I've watched less WNBA, and they do it there too, and it's never called. Yeah, I couldn't believe that call.
Yeah, I was surprised with that call.
That was Hall.
Yeah,
so I didn't think the one to Clark was a travel by today's.
No, that was not a travel. That was not a travel.
That counts as a turnover. See what I mean? The refs have it against her, and how if they do the score, when her travels, sometimes their turnovers are not her fault. And she had the one. Couple passes, but one pass I thought should have been caught, and it was probably labeled as a turnover.
Yeah, went to the person. But I mean, she's like I said, she wasn't scoring, so she was doing different things. She was making what I liked was she was making a nice before the games I saw, she was making that entry pass into Boston, and it was getting stolen because she wasn't putting it in the right spot. Yesterday, she was putting it in the right spot, and Boston was posting up, and that's why Boston was scoring. So I was like, okay, good. She's finally getting that down. Nice little one-hand bounce pass to her down into Boston. because the big guys, the big guys, so they can't really handle that ball too well. If you got to make it a little softer for them, and the bounce pass softens up that pass so she can handle it. And that's
Right.
what she. And then also, Clark dove to the basket, and instead of shooting, she made a nice couple of passes to Boston and to Mitchell, which resulted in baskets. So, I mean, that's what she was. I mean, she didn't have a great game, but shooting game. But I mean, I think overall, like I said, defense. Even her defense is not.
She was hustling on defense, Clark. I don't think she got burned much either. I know we talked about this on the other video. Her on-the-ball defense is the weakest part of her game, probably, other than the fact that she has no. Oh, she tried a floater yesterday.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah,
it's pretty ugly.
Mark, they're watching our videos. I know. They're hopefully they're liking and subscribing, but they're not. They're watching us.
She hit the rim at least.
Yeah,
she just didn't go in. I told you she just needs to go. Someone in the NBA. There's like a dozen people in the NBA who are great at floaters, and she just got to go hire one in the off season and learn how to do it better. But see, the one good thing about going through Thomas that is Clark is a great passer into the post. She's just a great passer. Period. Like I said, I think she's the best woman passer I've ever seen. Guess what? We got a live show Mondays Eastern time, 7 to 8. And we also have, if you want, make some comments down below about what we were talking about. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell when you do.